If you like stenciling, you're going to love the new Whimsy Stamps Furbaby Stencil Stacker Set. Let me tell you, it's absolutely adorable. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use this amazing stencil set to create the cutest cards. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on the potential of this product. Hello, I'm Lisa, and welcome back to the Whimsy Stamps channel. If you're new to the channel and you like what you're seeing, how about hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on new content posted to the channel. To our loyal subscribers, welcome back. So without further ado, let's jump right in and get creative with the Whimsy Stamps Furbaby Stencil Stackers. Now, if you attended the Whimsy Stamps Workshop Weekend in July of 2023, you received this stencil stacker set as one of the products that Whimsy was giving to the attendees. I'm so excited for this. It reminds me a combination of layering stencils, and I almost want to say a turnabout stamp. We're going to go ahead and jump into this because I just cannot wait to share this with you all. So you actually get 3 stencils in this set, and we're going to have a look at each one of them, and I'm going to tell you everything about each of the stencils. We're going to start with our first stencil here. This is the dog bones, and you can see how it has randomly placed dog bones, and then to the right there you have 5 silhouettes of the most adorable little dogs that you can stencil to go with these this stencil stacker set. Don't worry, we're going to use all of this throughout the video because I want you to see the true potential of this stencil set. So next up, I'm going to show you the second stencil in this set, and it's fish bones. And so you see we have the randomly placed fish bones, and we have 5 silhouettes of kittens over to the right side there. Now you're noticing me pointing at these little triangles. Those are like little registration marks or placeholders, if you will. And we're going to get into that as well as all the rest of the goodies about this set. So the last stencil in the set, which is actually the first stencil in the set, are the paw prints. So you see you have a lot of little paw prints here randomly placed, and you're going to notice you have a rainbow, a heart, a larger paw print, a larger fish bone, and a larger bone. We're going to be using some of these as well with this set. Now, if you look up close at this stencil set, you're going to notice that there's actually a line that goes around the paw prints, the fish bones, and the dog bones. And what that is that's your 4 by 5 1/4 inch area where you're actually going to be stenciling. So this is not going to cover an A2 card base completely. It's actually going to cover a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of cardstock. And we're going to get into all of that, I promise. So to get started, what I'm going to do is place a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of cardstock behind the stencil, and I'm going to secure it in place with some low-tack Scotch removable tape. Now, one of the things that I want to point out is you want to make sure that when you lay your paper down, you have it where the registration marks or those little triangle placeholders are, so that you can either take a pen or a pencil and color those in on your cardstock, or you can do like I do and just ink blend over them so that you'll know where to place the next stencil down. So this is a layering stencil, but it's not a traditional layering stencil. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start to do some stenciling. Now I've picked out a really fun color palette to play with for this video, and I'm using a combination of dye inks. Now, you can use any inks that you have available, distress oxides, distress inks, whatever you want to use. Please use those. I'm going to be using a combination of Memento dye inks and Simon Says positively saturated inks. So I'm going to be using Memento's Angel Pink, Peanut Brittle, and Rich Cocoa. And then from the positively saturated, I'm going to be using the Cheeky ink. And I think I have one of Simon's older ink pads that I'm going to be using, the Barely Beige ink for this. I will be using Whimsy Stamps blender brushes with this, So let's go ahead and start doing some blending because I cannot wait to show you how many ways you can use this stencil. So we're starting with our paw prints, and it's said that you should start with the paw print stencil every time that you get ready to do a design. Now, a little later in the video, I actually end up starting with, I think, the fish bones and then do the paw prints, but it worked out great. There were no mistakes. I want to show you that just in case it happens to you. But for right now, we're going to do like we're supposed to and start with the paw prints. And you see, I'm just using my blender brush along with that rich cocoa ink to lay down a light layer of ink over the stencil. Now, for those of you wondering, the little tan mat that my ink pad is sitting on is nothing more than an embossing mat for my Spellbinders die cutting machine, and it works great just to hold my ink pad in place. Also, over to the right that you can't see, I have my spoon rest, which I've showed you guys in previous videos. It's just an inexpensive silicone spoon rest that will hold my blender brushes while I'm working, because I have a really bad habit of just tossing my blender brushes down and then getting ink on everything. So I started using these spoon rests just to keep my work area a little bit neater and free of ink. So once I finish layering this ink down, I'm going to go ahead and remove the stencil and show you the end result. So I do want to let you know that after I use each stencil layer, I just go ahead and clean it. I'm not going to show you the cleaning process. I'm just trying to save some time by skipping over that. But I did want to let you know that I do clean those after each use. Now here I'm showing you, you can see the brown triangles to the top and the right. I'm just going to line the triangles up on this stencil with the triangles that have been ink blended onto my cardstock. Remember, I still have that low tack tape on the back piece, on the back side of my cardstock. So once I get my stencil in place, I'm just running my finger over the areas where the tape is at so that the stencil will adhere to that low tack tape and stay in place while I'm doing my ink blending. So I'm bringing in Simon Says Stamp Barely Beige ink, and I'm going to grab my blender brush and go ahead and do some quick blending. I'm just cleaning my brush off with a dry rag to get any excess ink off of there. And then we'll go ahead and start to blend the Barely Beige over the dog bones. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to speed up through this part because it's, like I said, this is just basic blending over a stencil. This stacker set makes this so easy to create these random backgrounds with just basic blending. I am going to show you on the next card how to add your own flair to it, but right now I just want to give you the feel of how this product works together and how you line the stencils up and the basic blending of just the layers, right? So let's go ahead and speed up and show you these bones after they've been ink blended. So far, so easy, right? So the next step that we're going to do is I'm using the rainbow from that paw print stencil, and I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending using that rainbow to fill in these areas in between the bones and the paw print. So what I want to recommend, if you're like me, I get a little bit crazy when I'm ink blending. Sometimes I don't pay attention to what I'm doing. I just start blending. I'm going to mask off around that rainbow just so I don't mess anything up at this point. Now, if you have any of the tiny little fine detail blender brushes that you work with, then you're probably going to be fine not to do this masking. But if you're using the Whimsy Stamps blender brushes like I'm doing, I highly recommend that you take the time to mask off around this rainbow so you don't mess up your background. Now I'm using that cheeky color to ink blend my first rainbow. I'm going to do random colors with this. So I'm going to do the cheeky color, the angel pink, and then I'm going to also, so here I'm coming in with my peanut brittle. Like I said, I'm going to be using different colors with this, and it's just a color palette that I picked. You could use any colors that you want and make it your own. I'm just showing you the process of using the stacker stencils and how much fun they are. So now you can see I still have 3 empty spaces there that I'm going to come and fill in with the rainbows. We're going to go ahead and fast forward through because I think you get the idea of what I'm doing here. You might want to clean your stencil off in between colors depending on the colors that you're using. I'm using fairly light colors, so I can easily go from one to the other without cleaning up too much. But I do take the time to clean off probably every other rainbow just to make sure I'm not, muddying up my colors too much. So now that we have our first background done, we're going to go ahead and move into a second one. And this is the one that I mentioned at the beginning of the video where I said you should start with the paw prints. But I actually end up starting with the fish bones first on one of the backgrounds. Well, this is it. And I want to show you that it's okay. You can still make it work. So I went ahead and I put my cardstock tape to the back of my stencil using my Scotch removable tape. And I'm grabbing that cheeky ink. So because these fish bones are scattered far apart, this is a perfect opportunity to come in and ink blend these with different colors. Remember, I told you we were going to add our own flair to the next background, and that's what we're going to do here. So instead of doing this layer in all the same color like we did on the last background, what I want to do is use all the colors of the inks here. So cheeky, we're using the barely beige, the rich cocoa, the angel pink, and the peanut brittle to go ahead and stencil all the little fish bones in different colors. And it's going to add such a neat little touch to this. Now, I do want to say that, as I mentioned earlier, you should start with the paw prints first. I think this is a great way to show you that if you happen to start with the fish bones or the dog bones first, it's not the end of the road. You can keep going with it and it's still going to work out fine for you. Now, you do want to make sure that you get those little triangular placeholders or registration marks stenciled so that you remember where you put your next stencil. Because these fish bones are so far apart, I didn't have to do a bunch of ink blending all over the stencil. So I actually didn't hit up the registration marks. But that's okay because this is so easy to line up that I just brought the stencil back over, lined it up, and then colored in the little registration marks, and then just went ahead and moved on to my next stencil. It's okay if you forget to do the registration marks. Just line the stencil back up and keep going with it. You're going to make mistakes along the way, and you can just fix them. It's that easy. So let's go ahead and reveal our fish bones. I think these are so cute. I'm going to finish up this last little fish bone here, and then we'll do a quick reveal, and then we'll move on to doing the paw prints next. So let's have a look at this. So here we are working backwards. We're stenciling the paw prints down, and I'm using my Memento Rich Cocoa ink, a light layer of this. I'm not going to go heavy with it at all. So if you don't like the colors that I've used in the video, feel free to pull the colors that you like. Feel free to use the inks that you prefer. Maybe you prefer Distress Oxides or Distress inks over dye inks. By all means, make it your own and use the colors that you like. So once we have the blending done, you notice we had 5 open spaces there. Well, I'm going to come in with the kittens, the little silhouettes of each of those kittens, and fill those 5 spaces in using the colors from my color palette. I'm masking off because I'm using a larger blender brush and I don't want to end up with accidentally blending in areas where I don't want ink because I don't want to have to worry about cleaning it up. So it's better just to go ahead and mask it off. And again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, if you have smaller blender brushes, and you know that you're not going to go outside that area, then you're probably going to be fine. So let's go ahead and keep moving on. I want to do a side-by-side comparison of this background that I'm working on and the background that we did earlier, because I want to point out to you There's one thing you cannot do with this stencil set, and that is you can't use the fishbone stencil and the dog bone stencil together. And the reason for that is the images are in the same area. So when I show you these two side by side, you're going to notice that the bones and the fish bones are in the same exact area. You cannot use those two stencils together. Now, that's not to say you can't maneuver the stencils around and use them, because you most certainly could do that. This stencil set has so many possibilities. It's you don't have to use it as a stacker set. You could just use each individual stencil. And like I said, just shift the stencil around until you have your background filled in, or use it as what it's meant as, the stacker set. So I want to show you how I'm going to take these cute little dogs and I'm going to create a strip to go on our first background we created. So using the colors from my color palette, I'm going to line a piece of cardstock up on my glass mat. I'm going to use the grid lines to help me stay straight as I stencil this across my paper. I'm going to make sure I mask off, and then I'm just going to do 4 of the little silhouette puppies across the bottom of this piece of paper. So then I can take it to the paper trimmer and trim it down. And then I'm going to stamp my sentiment on it as well. So starting out with the peanut brittle, and then I'm going to go into the rich cocoa. I said we were doing 4, but we actually end up doing 5 of these images on here. Into the cheeky, and then the barely beige, and then the angel pink to finish off the stenciling on this. Just use a ruler or a grid mat to help you stay straight as you stencil along the bottom of this piece of paper. It's all very easy. You're going to see me go ahead, move my stencil over and line it back up so that I keep it straight. And I'm just using the grid on my glass mat to do this. So super simple. Okay, so real quick, I want to show you that you can use these stencils with paste. So here you can see I used transfer gel paste to go ahead and cover the paws with my paste. I let it dry overnight so that I could foil those with my transfer foil. Now, I have three here that I did. I did the dog bones, the paw prints, and I went ahead and did the fish bones as well. I love the way this turned out. So don't think of these just as ink blending. Pull out those pastes to get creative with these stencils. Now I'm going to pair the 2 of these with Whimsy's new pink plaids paper pad. If you haven't checked it out, there's a video here on the channel that flips through real quick and shows you all the beautiful pink plaids in that paper pack. Also, if you're interested in using gels and you're not comfortable with it, I have a video over on my channel that I'm going to link down below for you. So you want to go check that out. It's going to walk you through step by step how to use gels with your stencils to get the best possible results. And I promise you, it's a game changer what I share in that video. So be sure you check that out. Let's go ahead now and start to wrap this video up. We're going to look at some samples and I'm going to walk you through the process of what I did. So for this sample, I used the Adopt Don't Shop Dog Version stamp set. I stamped the image, colored it with my Copic markers, and then added the sentiment from that same stamp set. I just cut it out with my paper trimmer and centered it on my foiled and ink blended background that was cut out using Whimsy Stamps Sprinkles die set. Now you want to be sure to check out that video over on my channel if you want to do foiling or any type of paste with your stencils. I promise you it is a game changer. I absolutely love the way this card turned out. So my next card is the one that we created earlier in the video with the ink blending of the background and the 5 little puppy silhouettes. And what I did was I just cut the little silhouettes out and backed them with some Nina Desert Storm cardstock as the same as my card base. And then I stamped the sentiment, if you're happy and you know it, wag your tail, using VersaFine Clair Pinecone ink. So I just stamped right over the little silhouettes of the puppy dogs, and I think this turned out super cute. So here's another one that I did, and this one is really easy to make. It does have foiling on it, but you could skip the foiling if you wanted to and just do ink blending. So I used pink and orange colors so I could pair it with Whimsy Stamps pink plaid papers. And I cut that out using the sprinkles die set. I also cut the background out with that same die set. We used If You're Happy and You Know It, Wag Your Tail. Again, I love that sentiment from the Adopt Don't Shop dog version stamp set. This card comes together so fast. It's easy to make and it has so many possibilities. You could use birthdays, just a hello, any type of card you wanted. So here's another super simple card. This is the background we created earlier in the video. I cut it out with Whimsy Stamps Wonky Stitch die. The largest die in there is the perfect size to cut out your ink blended backgrounds. I also used Whimsy's pierced and stitched round dies to make my sentiment pop up off the center of that card. And the big hug word die set, it's a great die set and it goes great with these pet themed cards, and I just made it unique by using some masking paper and masking off and ink blending in different colors. All of that's fairly easy to do. If that's something you might be interested in learning, let me know in the comments and I will share a video on how to do that. Now, this is probably my all-time favorite that I made so far, and it's because I personalized it. And what I did was I picked one of the little silhouette dogs that reminded me of a shepherd, and then I used brown and black inks to ink blend him so that he would kind of look like a German shepherd. And then I ink blended the little hearts with the paw prints on the heart in a rainbow color for Over the Rainbow Bridge, and then did a very simple with sympathy sentiment from Whimsy Stamps Everyday Mini Sentiment Stamp Set. It's a mouthful. Just to keep it real simple, I think sympathy cards should be straightforward and simple. So that's going to wrap up the samples. I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly enjoyed working with this set and making this video to show you how fantastic it is. So let me know in the comments what you think. As always, once again, I have my affiliate links down in the description box below. If you want to check out any of the products and maybe pick them up to add to your craft stash, use those links. I earn a small commission and I really do appreciate when you do use my affiliate links. It helps to keep my channel growing. It helps me buying supplies, papers, inks, and all that fun stuff so that I can continue to bring content to you here on the Whimsy channel and over on my channel as well. As always, you guys know I appreciate you so very much for taking time out of your schedule to spend with me. Until next time, please take care.